Hey guys, I'm back. It's 2023 now, and I just thought I'd want to talk about the last 2022 films that I saw, plus the first 2023 film that I saw. The films we're going to be talking about today are Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Whale, and M3GAN. Megan, but I'm just going to say M3GAN because it's funny. So let's start off with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, directed by Joel Crawford. This tells a story of Puss in Boots on his last life, but once death is coming for him, he wants to find the wishing star, which will grant one wish. And there's a bunch of other fairy tale people that want to try and find the wish before Puss does, and Puss has to reevaluate his entire life. What has he been doing his whole life rather than just living it, you know? And I've said this before, I'm a sucker for films about living life and enjoying the moment. Forrest Gump. I love Forrest Gump. And what this film does is it's so much different than any other animated film. Yeah, it's a 3D animated film, but its art style, more specifically, when it goes into that more Spider-Verse-esque looking style, when everything looks more 2D. So everything has a harder outline, and the frame rate gets dropped just a tad, so you can see a lot more details and everything. And it really helps in the action scenes. Of course, there's action scenes where it's all 3D, fully 3D, none of that 2D hard outlining stuff. But the action scenes in this film are spectacular. They're all jaw-dropping. I was gripped to my seat. I was on the edge. I wanted to know how everything played out. It was fun, exciting. And that's just the whole movie too. It's really fun and it's really exciting, and it was very unexpected for a Puss in Boots movie, which is just a spin-off of the Shrek movies. I didn't see the first Puss in Boots. I think I was a little too young to really care about it enough. But I was very interested in this film because when I first saw the trailer, I thought, that's interesting what they're doing with this art style. And I'll be honest, I really wasn't going to see this film until my little sisters wanted to watch it. So I took them and my mom to see it, and we all liked it. We all really liked it. And I loved it. I thought this film is great. And I want this to be the front runner for best animated feature of the year. I really want Inu to win, but I think this film is just phenomenal. It has a great story. I like the pacing. A lot of the characters are great, not all of them. There's a few villain characters I really didn't care about because they just seem to take away from the film. More so, they take away from the emotional core that Puss in Boots has. And action's great. The action is all great. The music's great. The editing is great. It's just a really, really, really fun movie, and it was very unexpected. And it makes me wish DreamWorks did more stuff like this rather than Trolls or Home or, I don't know, the Bee Movie, which everyone convinced themselves to think is a good movie, but it's not. I mean, Home is fine. It's just so average. But this movie right here, it makes you think that DreamWorks has the capability to stand up to the giants like Pixar and Disney. And I wish DreamWorks did more stuff like this. This is really phenomenal. I love the art style. The action's great. Antonio Banderas back. All the voice acting is great, I think. Antonio Banderas, Selma Hayek, Florence Pugh's in the film. And when I figured that out, I was like, oh my god, now I have to watch this movie. But overall, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. The Last Wish was very unexpected. It was fun, exciting, very tense at moments, especially when we consider this character called Death, who is hunting Puss. Those moments are honestly kind of scary because it's a wolf. His design, his weapons, his whistle, the music that plays whenever he appears. It adds a layer to the film that makes it so much more mature than it has any right to be. But because there's talented people behind this film, and because it's not a cash grab, because it's something where a bunch of talented people came together to tell a really cool story in a really good way, that this film succeeds. I'm giving Puss in Boots: The Last Wish an A-. Now let's move on to Avatar: The Way of Water, directed by James Cameron. Now, before I watched this film, I think the night before, I caught the end of True Lies, also directed by James Cameron, and I'm thinking, damn, this is really fun and exciting and cool. And I love James Cameron. James Cameron's awesome. I haven't seen Aliens, but I have seen his Terminator films, Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Haven't seen Titanic yet, but True Lies is awesome. And I recently just watched Avatar in 2022 when they re-released it in IMAX 3D. And it was the first time I had seen it. And I absolutely adored it. I thought it was phenomenal. The CG was spectacular. I understand people saying it's Pocahontas but blue people, or not Pocahontas, I mean Dances with Wolves but blue people. You know, it's a white savior story, but I just thought it was a very great, very, very fun experience. Very well made. And with this film, the sequel, which is 13 years in the making, and in my opinion, the best showcase of CGI ever, Avatar set the standard, and now Avatar 2 set the standard yet again. Before I splurge on about, the technical aspects of the film, I want to talk about the story. So, Avatar: The Way of Water tells the story of Jake Sully, Neytiri, and their new Avatar family having to be on the run from the human characters as they come back and they want to fuck shit up. They want to take over Pandora because Earth is, on the shit. So, but the main goal is they're after Jake Sully. They want to stop that resistance. So Jake Sully, Neytiri, and his new Avatar family leave, and they live with the Water Tribe Avatar people. And then there's a cool twist involving some reoccurring elements from the first film. More so certain characters, which I won't say because I don't want to spoil anything. Even though this film has been out for some weeks and everyone has probably seen it because it's making bank at the box office. But Jake Sully and his family are on the run, living with the Water Tribe avatars. And it's sort of that. They're experiencing all the water stuff, everything underwater, this new way of living, until the villain stuff appears, and then they have the big third act. What I will say is that it's not the same as the first film, more so the white savior stuff, which I'm not really upset about. I'm not pissed about that. I'm not pissed that it's like Dances with Wolves, but blue people. What I'm more concerned about with the plot of this film is that it feels a little repetitive at points. Jake Sully tells his kids, hey, don't get into trouble. They get into trouble. They have a little talk about it, and then it happens again and again and again. So that felt a little annoying after a while because I'm thinking, okay, we know that there's this ever-looming threat coming, but we're just kind of fucking around with the people in the water, which looks spectacular. My jaw was dropped. I watched this in IMAX 3D. My jaw was dropped, and I audibly said "wow" so many times because it looks fantastic. It's an experience unlike any other in a film. But it felt a little repetitive at points, and I was thinking, okay, when are the villains going to come in? I know they have their stuff to do. They're learning other things. They're doing things more so in line with the first film, but when are they going to come in and fuck shit up now? So it felt a little repetitive, and there are some certain plot elements it borrows from the first film, more specifically a character bonding with a giant creature. Jake Sully being the outsider. The villain characters and their weird plot to get this artifact. Not really an artifact, but just a MacGuffin. But with this film, the MacGuffin comes in a lot later, and it doesn't really feel impactful. Just like, okay, you just introduced this one thing, and it has no weight on the plot, but now it's this big deal because it involves these whale-like creatures that the water avatar people adore. But it comes so late in the film that I just didn't care about that aspect. But there are certain elements involving action in those scenes and just a pure sense of wonder where I was like, wow, this is a joy to watch, even though it got a tad boring at points. It's just a visual spectacle. It's so dazzling. It was just a beautiful experience to watch. And then the third act happens where there's a bunch of action, and then we see Zoe Saldana's character Natiri do some crying, which she's really good at. You know, her crying over certain events that happen in the film are just really good. She showcases her emotions a lot. And I like Jake Sully more in this film than the first film. The villain characters, I'm gonna say the twist. So it turns out, and it is revealed like in the first 10 minutes of the film, the military character from the first film. I really wish I could remember his name. I just can't for the life of me. He's a really cool guy though. I like him more in this film than the first film. He got cloned. He left like a clone of himself behind that got inserted into an avatar, which is made to infiltrate the Na'vi, and then is that what they're called? Whatever. They go and infiltrate the blue avatar people, and then they kidnap this human character, Spider, which turns out it's his son who got left behind because he couldn't go into cryogenetic sleep or whatever because he was too young. And that character of the film, I enjoyed him, but I wish there was more to his character involving his father, because they're going around and the military character is doing a lot of bonding with his son, and he's going through the same beats that Jake Sully went through. He's capturing the bird animals. I forgot their names. And, you know, he's learning the Na'vi language from his son. But there's never a big moment where they're bonding with each other and Spider actually cares about his father, because at the end of the film, there's a moment where there's a choice being made between the father and the son. And I just never felt like, okay, one cares about the other, but in actuality, one cares about the other. I never felt the connection between one to the other. I'm not going to say what it is to avoid spoilers, but then a choice is made at the end of the film where I thought, I never really saw that happening. Maybe because he's a young character and it's supposed to show his innocence, but I never really felt that big impact because I just never felt that emotional connection there. It wasn't built upon super hard or super well. It wasn't built upon. I guess those are my issues with the plot, really. It's a little slow at points, despite it being a visual spectacle. And despite being very interesting, I was just in the back of my mind thinking, okay, when we're going to get to more plot-driven stuff? Because right now we're just kind of fucking around with the water Na'vi people, you know? But now let me get into the technical stuff. The CGI is almost flawless. It is fucking phenomenal. This is the best CGI that has ever been showcased in the history of special effects. And wow, it was honestly fantastic. Like, the biggest films with the best CGI are the first Iron Man. This is my opinion. What I think the best special effects in all of cinema are, like CGI showcasing. Iron Man, T2, Avatar, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Avatar 2. I think those are the biggest showcases of what special effects... Oh, Interstellar. What special effects can do, what CGI can bring to life. At least those are some of the best. But Avatar 2, it is on a whole nother level. It looks fucking phenomenal. All the underwater stuff looks fantastic. I see why we had to wait 13 years to get this film made. I don't care if we have to wait 20 years for Avatar 3. It's honestly mind-blowing. And watching this in IMAX 3D, the 3D wasn't a gimmick in this film. What needed to pop out looked great, especially in the underwater stuff. It's almost undescribable how great it looks. You just have to watch it. Me saying it is almost doing it an unservice, a disservice, because it's so fucking beautiful. And the action in this film is just so tense and fun and enjoyable and gripping and engaging. There's so much to the action. The explosions are cool. The fighting is cool. The way the military fight versus the Navi people fight. The directing, the editing, it's all there. It's so damn fun. And the last like hour or the last half hour, 40 minutes of the film is just pure nonstop action. It's so fucking great. And I want to say who did the score, because rest in peace, James Horner. You did the score for the first Avatar film, and that was phenomenal. So, but the score to this film is honestly just as great as Avatar. They're on par. They're equal to each other. I just want to say who did the score, because I love talking about scores to film. It was by Simon Franklin, who I don't know what else he's done, but you, man, you did great. Especially doing similar renditions of the score to the first film. You did great. It was awesome. It was emotional. It was awe dropping. It was you added to the spectacle, because all the underwater stuff. I mean, revisiting areas from the first film was just great enough, especially with your score. But these new areas, the water stuff, underwater stuff, the big action stuff, it was all there. It's not memorable to me as in like I'm humming themes from the movie, but sitting there and watching it and enjoying the experience, it was all there. I know I've talked about this film for a long time, but the movie goes on for a long time too. It's 3 hours and 12 minutes, and you really feel the length at points. It's not a perfect movie. There's similar beats to the first film. It feels repetitive at points. Editing, not in terms of the action, but in terms of going back to the villain characters, to the main characters, it's a little strange. And I feel that we're away from the villains for a little too long. The pacing's just a tad off, but overall, this was a phenomenal experience, and I was so glad to have watched it. I felt bad for ever making fun of the first Avatar before watching it. I think I just never wanted to watch it because I knew it wouldn't have been that experience in the movie theater. And I'm glad they re-released it, so I was able to experience what it was. And I'm glad I was able to experience Avatar 2 in IMAX 3D. It looked great. The CG was phenomenal. The action was great. It was tense. I loved the story, despite having similar plot beats to the first film. I love how new it just felt. And I just loved sitting there and experiencing. It felt like Spielberg in his prime, in his heyday, with like the Jurassic Park stuff, and how seeing the dinosaurs for the first time with the John Williams score, it felt like that, but now I'm older. And it felt like that. It felt magical. This is how fun movies can be. This isn't one of the best movies of all time. It's just, I enjoyed the experience. It felt fun and exciting. And I'm excited to see whatever avatars James Cameron comes up with next, or whenever he's done, who he lends it off to. Hell, I'd love to make an Avatar movie. I'm giving this film an A-. It was just so damn fun, a visual spectacle. And once it comes out on Blu-ray, 4K, whatever, I'm getting it and watching it at home again. I'd love to watch in the theater, but there's other movies I want to watch. And there's other movies I'm going to talk about. Let's talk about The Whale, directed by Darren Aronofsky. I've never seen a Darren Aronofsky film before, so I didn't know what to expect in terms of the directing style, but what I got, I adored. I thought this film was great. I have some issues with it. Funny enough, it's a lot shorter than Avatar 2, but it feels a little slow at points. It feels a little slow. And we feel that because it's about a character in a house. And we're in the house for a long time. At the end of the film, it said it was based on a play. And you can feel it at points because of just being in one location. So let's talk about the plot. The plot is about this man named Charlie, who is a big, obese man who teaches online classes on his computer at home, on his laptop at home. He never shows his face because he's ashamed of who he is now. Something happened in his past that led him to becoming larger, to eating, to becoming as big as he is now. So Brendan Fraser's in a big fat suit, and it looks great. Nothing about it looks bad. It looks genuine, and at points, you really feel the weight of it, especially in this 4:3 aspect ratio. You really feel the weight of it because of how framed it is, how it is framed. And I thought Aronofsky directed the hell out of this film. The camera movements, along with the editing and the framing of it all, especially the performances he gets out of the actors. I thought everyone did a good job. Ty Simpkins has a character in this film which I never really felt emotionally connected to, and I felt like although it does bring about certain plot elements to the film, it does bring about certain aspects that are explained, I just felt never connected to him in an emotional aspect. But it does bring about some great performances from other characters, mainly Brendan Fraser. He was phenomenal in this film. It's not my favorite performance of the year. Cate Blanchett was my favorite performance of the year, but he was riveting. He was earth-shattering. And I thought I would have cried in this film, but I didn't. I might have been a little close, but there are moments of his acting that are just, holy shit. There's a scene in the trailer where he's saying, I just want to know I leave behind one good thing. I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life. And seeing that in the trailer, thinking, what builds up to that? And seeing that build up, seeing that scene it's emotionally wrecking. It's a sad film. My friend who I took to see it, he didn't like it much. I can get why. It's a slow movie. Not a lot happens. A lot of what happens is emotionally, internally stuff. Mainly because we're in one room. We're in one place, this apartment. And it's, I don't know. I just really, really like this film. I have my issues with it, though. It does feel a little slow at points. One of my biggest issues, though, is Charlie, Brendan Fraser's character, wants to connect with his daughter. That's the biggest plot point to the film. He wants to reconnect with his daughter because he left her and her mother when she was 8. And now on the brink of flunking out of high school, he wants to help her with papers. And he keeps praising that she's such a good person, when she does things in the film that kind of say otherwise. She says things and she's being honest about it. And Brendan Fraser's character has this thing about honesty. He wants people to be honest because he wasn't honest with himself, I think. I think he wants his daughter to be so honest with, because she has a paper that she wrote that he says was the best paper he's ever written, he's ever listened to, and he's ever read, because of its honesty. He has this thing about honesty in the movie where he wants people to be honest because he doesn't want people to be deceived. He doesn't want it's really hard to explain, but he just wants people to be honest because he thinks that's the best aspect to people, mainly because he wasn't honest with himself, and something that happened with his past, someone specific in his life wasn't honest with himself. And so, but that aspect involving his daughter felt a little strange because he keeps saying she's a good person and she is a phenomenal person, but she does things that say otherwise. And it's because of that I never felt that connection, and it was so strange. And it's because I think he has like a delusion about it, because it, like I said, in that one scene where he says, I just want to make sure I leave behind one good thing in this life. I think it's his delusion and his desire for that makes him want to believe that. I hope I didn't really spoil anything about that, but it's in the trailer, that specific moment. But overall, I really enjoyed this film. I thought the performances were all great. I I love the directing. The score. Oh, I want to talk about the score real quick. So the film is called The Whale, and there's some stuff about Moby Dick in there, but also mainly because Brendan Fraser's character is big. He's a big fat guy, and there's some moments of the score where it kind of sounds like whale calls in the beginning when we're being thrust into seeing Brendan Fraser's character and us feeling his weight and the magnitude he brings and the framing of it all, especially. Um, Sorry, I'm just looking up something real quick because I do want to talk about a couple other things involving the cast of this film. Um, it You can feel the weight of this character, and the score really sells it, especially in one scene that's honestly very disturbing to watch. I don't want to say what it is, but just watching this character break down at that moment and doing the things that he does in this scene along with the score, it's one of my favorite scenes of the year. It was I can't explain. I can't express it without spoiling it. But it was just there. It was there, and I think that's what the film was building up to. Just seeing this character break down and do this specific thing, paired with the music and the framing, it was all there. It was perfect. But the film isn't. Saying again, overall, I really enjoyed this film. Brendan Fraser did a good job. Hong Chow, who plays a nurse friend, I thought she did great. Sadie Sink, who plays Ellie, I liked her in the film. She did good. Ty Simpkins, good. Samantha Morton, good. There's not a lot of people in this film. I liked how grounded it felt in that aspect. But, again, saying overall, I really enjoyed this film. Had my issues with it, but I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorites of the year, and I'm giving The Whale a B+. I just thought it was really damn good. I was emotionally riveted by it. Riveted. Is that the right word? No. I was emotionally invested, I meant to say. It's just really, really damn good. And Brendan Fraser gives a fantastic performance. With the 2022 films that I last saw in 2022 out of the way, let's talk about the first 2023 film that I saw this year. That being M3GAN, or M3GAN. I didn't like this movie. I really didn't. I wasn't expecting much out of it, and I came out just not enjoying it. I wish I enjoyed it like everyone else in my theater did, though, because everyone was cheering and clapping and laughing their asses off. I didn't find the film funny. I didn't find it scary. And I didn't find much enjoyment out of it. Not a whole lot of enjoyment. I think because I saw this in an AMC, all those people who go to an AMC are more, crowd people. Every time I go to a Regal, there's a lot less people there and no one really, cheers and stuff. But I think it's just the experience going to an AMC. But did I say this film was directed by Gerard Johnston? It has, what's his face? James Wan's name attached to it. So I was thinking, okay, the last James Wan film he directed was Malignant, which I didn't think was that good, but it was really enjoyable because it has James Wan's fun directing and the way he choreographs his action scenes is fun. But with this film, there's two trailers that released for it. One trailer sold it as a more of a horror film, then the second trailer sold it as more of a lighthearted Chucky movie or so. Something more lighthearted. But what I got out of this movie was an attempt at satirizing a sort of a Chucky movie while also adding in the humor of our generation, of the now, and I don't think any of it worked. I laughed twice in this film. Once in the beginning when there was a commercial like satirizing like Furby type toys, and once when someone sees M3GAN or M3GAN and has a genuine reaction of Jesus Christ, what the hell is that thing? You know, that was actually funny. I didn't find any of the other jokes funny because I thought it was too. I don't want to say modern because modern is always going to change, and the modern now is going to be the past, and the modern later is going to be the modern then. I just felt it was too much of what comedy tries to be now, quirky and self-aware. And the self-awareness of this film, I think, is a big distraction. Let's talk about the plot. So the plot of this film is... The plot of this film is that a little girl is on a road trip with her family, but her parents die in a car crash. And so the little girl's auntie takes her in as her legal guardian and decides to finish a project that she's working on at this toy company called M3GAN, which is a lifelike doll toy that interacts with you and learns about you and basically becomes your parent. And so there's an emotional core to the film, or at least it tries to have an emotional core to the film. Well, I felt like that could have worked. That could have been more of the center, more the point of the film, where this auntie character Gemma wants to help her niece get over the loss of her parents by basically creating something that takes over the role of a parent. Because in a commercial in the film, it showcases it being a parent basically, and then goes, so you can have more of the time to do stuff that you want to do. Like, what? So you're not gonna be a parent? But I get it. It's supposed to be self-aware and it's supposed to poke fun at itself like that. But I just couldn't get behind it. I don't know. The film isn't... It's not offensively bad. It's just kind of boring. And I sat there emotionless looking at the screen like, okay, whatever. Let's see. I want to go back to that emotional core the film wants to have, where it's, hey, I know you lost your parents, and I'm going to do my best to try and take care of you, and now I'm just going to throw M3GAN on you, and hey, now M3GAN's overstepping her boundaries, now I'm going to try and take over as a parent, and not let M3GAN do it all, because M3GAN's starting to do some weird things. And the things that M3GAN does in the film, she's supposed to protect Katie. Is that her name? Yeah, she's supposed to protect Katie from emotional and physical harm. But some of the things that M3GAN does kind of oversteps the boundaries a little. And I get it, that's the point. And we were supposed to see these deaths, and they're supposed to be fun, but they're not to me. And it's not like scary, and it's not fun either. It wants to be both, with a more lighthearted tone near the end. I just couldn't get behind it. Like, why is M3GAN doing these weird dances in the trailer? Like, why is she doing that in front of this specific character? Why? What's the point of it? I don't know. Everyone was cheering and laughing at the moment. I'm like, why? I don't get what's funny. Like, did you cheer and laugh during the trailers or something? I honestly don't get it. I don't. I understand why people get the film. I just don't get it myself. Like, I couldn't get behind it. And I don't want to sound cynical and like an asshole about this movie. People like it, go ahead. But I don't get it myself. And I want to say I'm right about this movie because I went to see it with a group of friends, and some of these friends also saw Smile with me, and they enjoyed it more, and they also enjoyed Barbarian, two films I really didn't like from last year. And I'd like to say I was right about those movies too. But I'm in the minority in those movies, and I'm definitely in the minority in this movie as well. It's just, I couldn't get any enjoyment out of this film. I thought it was way too goofy for what it wanted to do. If it wanted to be lighthearted, it totally could have. But I thought it was way too lighthearted and way too goofy, way too trying too hard to be satirical. But its comedy and the dialogue, is just too much for me. It was too much. I don't know. I just didn't like it. That's it. I didn't like it. I couldn't get behind it. The horror elements I didn't find scary. There's stupid jump scares in there that weren't scary, just accompanied by a loud piece of music. I didn't like the M3GAN character, and it looked uncanny to me. It wasn't creepy as in, oh, it's scary creepy, or it wasn't creepy as in, haha, we made this intentionally creepy, in a weird way. It was just creepy in a sense that it looks like it wants to be looking like a human, but it isn't. Uncanny. But it just, I think it was creepy in the unintentional sense that the film didn't want to go for. It wasn't creepy in the intentional sense that it wanted to go for unintentionally or something like that. I don't know. There's layers to this film I could get behind. I just can't. And it just, that's it. I didn't like M3GAN. It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't good. Nor was it that good. I'm gonna give M3GAN a C minus. I really don't think I'll ever revisit this film ever again in my life. There's just nothing for me to enjoy. One thing, I saw this with some coworkers from work and friends from work. Most of them liked it, but there's one friend who was like really into horror, who said she hated it, and I was kind of glad to hear that because I was scared to tell her, hey, I didn't like it because I know she really liked Barbarian and more so she liked Smile, but it was kind of reassuring that someone was on my side, that someone didn't like it because it was too goofy, wasn't scary, kind of cheesy, kind of boring. The pacing's weird. I thought it was a little too slow. It was a little too slow for like the first half, and then the second half just skyrockets to want to jump to this horror comedy stuff. Not a horror comedy, but a horror with some lighthearted comedic elements to be more hip and modern and toonish and stuff. I don't know. I just couldn't get behind it. A C minus for me, and that's it. So what a great way to start 2023 with the movies. To me, this was definitely a January film, where nobody was sure what to get because of the marketing of the film. It didn't want to sell itself as a pure horror because it wasn't. And it didn't want to sell itself as a haha funny comedy, poking fun at this kind of toy stuff, because it isn't. It tries to be both, and it doesn't work. C minus for me. I'm done with this film. So yeah, what did you think about these films that I saw? That being The Whale, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Avatar, The Way of Water, and M3GAN. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments below, and I'll be back with more enjoyable content like this. I can't wait to see the 2023 films. There's a lot I'm looking forward to. So yeah, bye.